during your meditation practice, that's okay. You're still practicing, guiding your attention back to the present moment. And it's really a process of again and again returning to the present moment. As soon as you notice your mind wandering, that's the moment you've awakened. And then you bring your attention back. And that might have to happen again and again. So don't be super hard on yourself. Give yourself grace, but know that this practice is so beneficial in so many ways, because if you think you can't focus just sitting still, well, imagine how much harder that is in a busy life when you have all these busy thoughts and you have a bunch of different tasks to do. So let's start here and now. By sitting down or laying down, you could be seated in a chair with your feet firmly on the ground. You could be sitting on a cushion or a block, and you could also just be laying flat on your back with a cushion under your knees maybe, but try not to put anything big under your head that might crank your neck in a weird way. So right on the ground, knees lifted, or in a chair, feet on the ground, or on a cushion as comfortably as you can get. So first thing we're going to notice is how the weight in our body is distributed. Where do you feel the weight of gravity? Maybe you feel it in your low back. Maybe you feel your seat on the ground. Maybe you feel your legs and feet on the ground. And whatever you notice, just take your time to distribute that weight more mindfully. So if you feel it mostly in your left side, try to distribute a little to your right side. If you feel it mostly in your low back, see if you can tuck your tailbone under by engaging the core a little bit to take that pressure out of the low back. If you feel it in your shoulders, try to let both shoulders relax away from the ears and reach up through the crown of the head. This alone takes a ton of attention. Just putting your body nicely stacked upward into gravity rather than carrying the weight of gravity unconsciously in these strained and sore parts of our body. So just take a moment, notice the little micro adjustments, your shoulders, your head, your tailbone, from your weight from left to right. All of these details are enough to occupy the attention in the present moment. Next, we're going to turn our attention to the breath and notice it without changing it. Where do you feel the breath? What do you feel on the surface of your skin? Can you feel the temperature of the room? And as the breath comes and goes, where does it go to when you breathe in? And where does it leave from when you breathe out? If it's really hard to notice, that's okay. That's pretty normal. We don't pay a lot of attention to our breath throughout the day. So unless you're used to practicing it, it might be challenging to find your breath. But what we're going to do is coordinate the breath to be something we can pay attention to. We're going to put all of our attention on both our posture and how we're holding gravity and how the breath comes and goes. All right, so how are we going to breathe? Well, first, we might have noticed you might just feel it in your chest when you breathe. You might barely feel it at all. You might feel it in your nose or your throat. But we're going to make this a much more intentional type of breath. We're going to make these breaths big and abundant. So when you breathe in slowly through the nose, but imagine the breath going all the way down to the bottom of the spine, all the way down to your tailbone. And as it reaches down there, let your belly inflate first, so your belly pulls out and gets bigger, and then up to your upper lungs. And as you breathe out, we want to breathe out slowly and steadily, not just dumping out the breath, but letting it go smoothly. So we feel the lungs deflating, but we don't deflate the spine. We don't start slouching or anything. We stay sitting up tall with that very mindful posture, that stacked opposition to gravity. So inhales, nice and deep. We fill from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. Exhale, slow and steady. The lungs deflate, but the spine does not. So let's just focus next 5, maybe 6 breaths on nothing but the breath. If you get distracted, that's okay. As soon as you notice you're distracted, bring that attention to starting over. A full breath from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. And a slow, steady exhale. Notice where in your body feels it. Where do you feel resistant? Where do you feel blocked off or strained? And now that we have the breath and the posture, it's something we can continuously come back to. We're going to continue directing that attention to the details of the body, to the different spaces within the body. If you notice you need to readjust, how you're sitting, or if you want to lay down, or you find yourself deeply uncomfortable, you're not stuck here. So move your body in a way that you can find that comfort. And maybe a little discomfort is okay, but no strenuous pain or anything extreme. That's a total distraction. But you can explore a little bit. If you feel a little uncomfortable, breathe into that space. See what you can let go of on your exhale. Otherwise, just notice. In this present moment, there are so many details in the body we can pay attention to. So the breath as it comes and goes, we're filling from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. We're deflating the lungs slow and steadily while keeping that spine long and tall, that head stacked above the tailbone, and the low back not arched. You can also add a little texture or a little sound to the breath. Kind of like if you're breathing to fog something up, only in and out through the nose with that same kind of narrowing in the back of the throat. So it might sound like this. And the attention that it takes to make the breath slow and steady, to make it directional from the bottom to the top, and to make that sound by the narrowing in the back of the throat. This is a lot of things to pay attention to, so no matter where your mind wanders, as it naturally will, to the future or to the past or to somewhere else or someone else, as soon as you notice that that has happened, come back to those basics. The length of the spine and the details of the breath, bottom to top. And if you could start to notice, where do you feel this effort the most? You feel it in your low back, in your hips, in your shoulders? Do you feel it as a stretching in the ribs, or a tightness in the mid-back around the shoulder blades? Do you feel it in the neck? Let's bring our attention to our face. And maybe you feel comfortable letting your eyes gently close, or just find a single point that you can fix your eyes on and stare at. It could be a spot on the ground or off in the distance. And whenever you notice your eyes wandering, which they naturally will, return your eyes to that single pointed spot. Even if your eyes are closed, you might notice them wandering around behind your eyelids. The eyes are very closely, unconsciously linked to the movements of the mind. So when your thoughts are going all over the place, so do your eyes. But if you can intentionally keep your eyes on one single place, it creates a little bit more stability for your mind as well, a little bit more balance or focus. So once again, if you notice your eyes moving all around, you're not doing it wrong. That's part of the practice. This is a challenging practice. As simple as it is very challenging for a lot of us. So don't be hard on yourself, and know that even if you can't tell it's working, trust the process. Deep inhales, deep exhales. So our eyes are still. Now notice, is there any tightness around the eyes, the eye sockets, the eyelids, the eyebrows, maybe the sinuses and the cheeks. Notice, is your mouth engaged? Is your jaw clenched? Can you relax it? See if your teeth can stay from touching each other. And maybe press the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, right behind those front teeth. You don't have to press very hard, but it's another thing that keeps you coming back to, because just like the eyes, your eyes might wander, and you bring them back. Your mind might wander, and you bring it back. Your tongue might also just fall away from the roof of your mouth, and it might take you a little while to remember it. Bring your attention back. Now, all of these are simple techniques where just one is enough of a practice. But we're giving you options, lots of things to come back to. Is it the length of the spine? The depth of the breath? The stillness of the eyes? Or the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth? I'm going to be quiet for 5, 6 breaths. And you just notice where your mind wanders to, but don't leave a lot of time thinking about or trying to put meaning to where your mind wanders to. Just let it go and come back to any of these foundations, these anchors to keep you in the present moment. Now, once again, returning to the present. Maybe your mind wandered to 100 different places or times. It's okay. The mind is a very programmed, I don't want to say machine, but organism. It's got a lot of practice doing a lot of thinking. One thought leads to another thought leads to another thought. But this practice is about recognizing that thinking is not the only thing that we can do. Instead, recognize that yourself is not the routine thinking of the mind, but rather the listener or the observer of that thinking. So oftentimes we identify with the voice in our head or the narrator in our head. Oh, I gotta remember to take out the trash. Oh, so-and-so didn't call me back. Oh, I wonder if so-and-so's mad at me. No, they couldn't be mad at me. That's kind of how the narration of the mind is always working. And it takes practice to just hear the voice rather than be the voice or think that we are the voice. Or, some people don't have a inner monologue, but they process thoughts either way. And remember that the thoughts are not you. You're the observer of the thoughts. That might sound confusing, but with these next 10 breaths, I'm going to be quiet, and I want you to notice how the thoughts move through your head, one to the other, to the other, to the other. And as many times as you can, remember to let go of those thoughts. Just like a breeze through the trees, we don't have to catch it or hold on to it or identify with it. They come and they go. But instead, can you keep on coming back to the sensations of the body through these techniques and practices that we're using? The posture, the breath from top to bottom, smooth, steady exhale, that nice sound, that whooshing sound of the breath that soothes and really changes our internal chemistry, the softness and stillness of the eyes, and that gentle placement of the tongue on the top of the mouth. It's a lot of things to remember, so if you forget any of them, that's okay. Those are just places, options to come back to as you depart from that steady chain of thoughts that we're often stuck in. So 10 more breaths here. Last few breaths here. Notice if was your mind wandering the whole time, and were you just chasing around the thoughts? Or was there moments where you let go of the thoughts and remembered the posture, the breath, the eyes, the tongue, the simple anchors to bring us back to here and now? And then what happened when you departed from those thoughts? And did you notice that there's any space where you weren't following those thoughts, where you weren't lost in the routine thinking? Maybe there wasn't a moment like that. Maybe the thoughts just kept coming, and that's okay. That's why we practice and we practice again. And it takes time to start to notice the seed that we planted that is meditation and mindfulness. It takes nourishment. But if you continue coming back to water that seed, to take care of this psyche and this mind, body, spirit, you really start to notice the benefits in places where you wouldn't expect them. So I encourage you to continue practicing throughout your day these simple anchors that bring you to the here and now, to allow you to depart from the thoughts and the thinking for a while and step into a realm of being. Because when we are being, that's where possibility exists. The thoughts are just leading us through familiar routines, thoughts, feelings, and actions. But possibility exists when we step out of the routines and we recognize our true essence as a creator of our experience. thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Make sure, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to check out the virtual Y. We got a whole ton of awesome classes, and got chair yoga coming up next. So I appreciate your time. Take care.